What was he doing there?
Oh, Nick, there's no point in asking us. He was hardly in the office last week. And when he was, he didn't say much.
He was quite chatty the first week you went away, and he seemed to have something on his mind after that.
What do you mean he was depressed?
No, he's quite cheerful, but preoccupied.
Right. Look, Nick, don't start looking for things under stones. Anyone can have an accident.
Have you read the forensic report on the car?
Yeah, I know. Both brake systems gone. That's just the sort of situation where it would happen. You get no joy from the foot brake, you yank on the handbrake. And that's a hell of a stress you're putting on the cable.
And it wasn't as if it was a new car, Nick.
Well, I suppose you're right. Maybe I feel guilty about it because he was filling in for me when it happened.
You didn't appoint him.
No. You said he wasn't doing much last week.
He signed some of the high security stuff, did some of the paperwork.
And what about the incoming files?
They're in your top drawer.
We didn't have many in last week. He flipped through them in a couple of hours.
Well, I haven't got time now. Do me a favor. Get all the files that have come in since I was in Heidelberg and see if anything ties up with the Guildford area.
Right.
Nick?
Yeah.
The reason he was down in Surrey?
Yes.
Could be nothing to do with work. Could be more personal, do you know what I mean?
I've known Dennis Kates a long time, Phil. He's a very old-fashioned guy in many respects.
Oh, yeah?
That's right. Now, there was only one woman in Dennis's life, and I'm going to see her now, regretfully.
Thanks for coming over, Nick. Now, when I was in the force, I did 3 years on traffic. I saw some frightful things. Terrible, terrible accidents. You never think it might happen to somebody.
Well, it can happen to anybody, love. And it was quick. Dennis didn't suffer.
No, I know. And you know what Dennis was like when he was on an important case? He never had time to think of anything else. So perhaps it was all over before he even felt it.
He was, busy then.
Busy? Oh, of course, you were away, weren't you? Yes, he was busy. In a way, it was about you.
About me?
Well, the files that you keep in your office.
Yeah.
It was the weekend. No, it was the Friday. He'd only been there a week. But he was quite high, delighted. You know?
It'll serve Nick Lewis right for what he did on the Dunkley case.
The Dunkley case? When was that?
Well, Pete Dunkley. I let him go for lack of evidence, and when Nick got his hands on the file, he came up with umpteen discrepancies in his statement and conned him into pleading guilty on 7 charges. Oh, did me a lot of good, that did.
But Nick's your friend.
They're a business rival at present. So, if he can do it to me, then I can do it to him on one of his files. Look, love, when I've sorted it out for him, Nick's going to be as pleased about it as I am. When he gets over the shock, that is. But I'm going to have to get my skates on if I want to hand it to him on a plate by the time he comes back from Germany.
It's a job that Nick made a mistake on.
Well, let's say that we've all got our areas of ignorance.
Den, you're not going to be working over the weekend, are you?
Just for you, I won't start until Monday morning. Did somebody say something about a drink?
We had a lovely weekend over at Betty's. And I hardly saw him that week.
Here.
But, Nick, you know Den wouldn't do anything to hurt you. You know him better than that.
Oh, sure.
Well, it doesn't seem a very sort of matey activity to me.
Oh, Phil, please. Look, can you just go and get the files?
Okay.
Well, Nick, you told us he was a friend of yours, so we gave him a free run of the place. But I'm sure Harry will have signed the files out.
Well, as far as I remember, there's only about a dozen open files with my name in them. Some of them go back 10, 15 years.
His wife said that it was the Friday that he spoke to her.
Yeah, that would be last Friday week.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
What?
Well, when I passed him the weekly divisional reports for his signature, he was pretty busy with the file then. Yes. He was making notes from
Do
it.
you remember which one it was?
No. But it was a blue cover.
A closed file?
Yes, I'm sure of it.
Well, what the hell did he want with a finished case?
Just what I was going to ask you, boss. It's got your name on it. Have you got any scissors?
Oh, yes, I have. I'll get them.
Harry said that Dennis wanted to take this home the Thursday before last, but he wouldn't let him.
Oh, so he brought it up here for him on the Friday morning.
Well, if you already know.
Well, whose fault is it?
Well, it's ridiculous.
Bromley, Trevor James, collate with Chase and Sylvia.
But why is it ridiculous? Who are they?
Well, they're both dead. That's why it's ridiculous. Well, he's got his last letter in here somewhere.
His last letter to you?
Oh, to anybody. It's a suicide note. Yes, there it is. March the 12th, 1977. 3 years ago.
And this is Trevor Bromley.
Yes, he was a sad man. Well, it was a sad case. If it had come to trial, he'd have been found guilty of manslaughter, and he wouldn't have deserved that.
What do you mean?
Well, listen. There's no point in my going on living after what I've done to the person I love best in the world. I'm only writing this so that the authorities will know what happened this afternoon in Lower Penge Lane. I was going to pick up Sylvia to take her to the doctor's. I'd left it a bit late, so I was in a hurry. And then I found I was held up. There were some roadworks, and the lights were stuck on red. Somehow, I managed to drive home. There was something in my workshop that I needed. I don't suppose I'll suffer as she did. No doubt I'm a coward, but... She was quite dead, and I had done it as surely as if I'd shot her. I can't live with the knowledge of what I've done to her, and so I'm choosing the only way out that makes sense to me.
What sort of poison?
Oh, potassium chloride. It's in the PM report.
Potassium chloride? Where'd you get that from?
Well, he was a stores manager for a firm of industrial chemists, Macmillan's.
Easy.
Yeah, and the boss was his brother-in-law.
Oh, he was married?
No, his sister is Mrs. Macmillan.
Oh.
He would have been married if the accident hadn't happened. The girl he ran over, she was expecting a baby. Now, I wonder what Dennis Kates found in that file. Lewis.
Nick, it's probably nothing important, but the private things that were in Dennis's car in the glove box, they sent them over this morning. I suppose they won't be needed for the inquest.
Well, probably not. Why, is there something wrong?
Well, there's something I don't understand. I mean, it's not like Dennis. Look, Nick, could you come over, please, just for a few minutes?
Yes, sure. I'll be with you in about a quarter of an hour. Bye-bye. Here, my coat, will you?
She found something?
Oh, it could be.
So, what about the Bromley file?
Well, you have a look. Maybe your areas of ignorance are different to mine.
Right.
Begin with the inquest report.
Oh, don't jump the gun, mate. Let's start when he was alive first. Got his curriculum vitae here somewhere. Ah.
Go on, then. Read it out.
Trevor Bromley. Educated Packington Road Junior and Izzy Green Comp. Left with 5 O levels. Applied for a job with Crocker Parkins Electronic Engineers, but failed the medical. Taken on as a junior storeman by Burton Pharmaceuticals, October 1969. Stayed there till he joined Macmillan Chemicals in May 1973. It's not a lot of it, eh? Probably led a blameless life as well. Packington Road Junior.
Leave the schools for a minute. What was the first job where he failed his medical?
Crossley, Parkins, Electronic Engineers.
Can but try.
So when I opened the envelope, I saw them. The fire didn't get into the glove box. I can't believe it. You've always been so good with each other in every way. I just can't believe he could have been mixed up with someone like that. Not in that way. And then I thought if he was on a job... You meet all kinds of brasses in your work, I know that.
No, she wasn't a brass, Elaine.
You know her?
Yes.
Who is she, Nick? Please, you can tell me.
Well, she isn't anybody now. She was a woman called Sylvia Chasen. She died about 3 years ago.
But where did Den meet her?
Not as far as I know, he didn't.
But he had those photos in his car.
Yes. And how did they come to be there?
But Dennis Kates didn't say that to his missus. He wasn't going to drop Nick in it. He said that after Nick got over the shock, he'd be chuffed. So it's obvious, isn't it? He probably did her in deliberately. It wasn't an accident at all.
And the suicide?
He couldn't face up to what he'd done, could he?
Oh, one theory. Sue Maxwell? Ah, hello, sir. Yes. Yes. Well, yes, I do see that. Yes. Yes. Yes, well, it was an inquiry that we were making. Yes. Yes. Yes, well, Yes, I will remember that, sir.
There's about a dozen yeses there. You're a yes woman.
As a personnel manager at Crossley Parkins, the medical files on his employees are strictly secret. And who do we think we are?
Never even became an employee.
Apparently it doesn't matter very much.
Still, it's not important. He was only a kid of, what, 16?
It was you that said start at the beginning.
Oh, OK, let's get on. Unless the boss has already solved the problem.
No, I haven't done that, but we've got the right case.
Hey, I know that face.
Yes, you should do. Her photo's in the Bromley file.
That's the girl he ran over. Sylvia Chasen. Did Mrs. Kates give you these?
Yes, they were in the glove compartment of Dennis's car.
That'd be her in a working gear. She was some sort of a hostess, wasn't she?
At a place called the Club Cocotte.
Oh, we're going round there now?
What, at 11 o'clock in the morning?
Oh, it is a bit early, eh?
Did you come up with anything?
No, nothing.
Except a theory.
Well, what theory was that?
Well, go on. Tell him.
Well, you see, the only thing that makes sense to me, I reckon that Dennis Kates had decided that Bromley didn't do the job accidentally, if you know what I mean.
And he was going to tell me as soon as I got back.
Once he got the proof.
Well, it's a nice thought, but until we know what was triggering him off on the job, we're stumbling around in the dark. Have you been on to his brother-in-law yet?
Who?
Bromley's brother-in-law, Macmillan.
Oh, he's next but one on the list.
All right, I'll go and see him. I met him 3 years ago.
So, Burton Pharmaceuticals, probably better if I go round there, eh?
Yes, and while you're out, Phil, hire a dinner jacket or something, will you?
I've already got a dinner jacket.
Well, you do surprise me. I didn't even think you've got a suit.
Have you got a dinner jacket?
I say again, Burton Pharmaceuticals. Try Yellow Pages under chemists.
Macmillan Chemicals, Managing Director's office. No, not as yet. I'm expecting him any minute. Yes, sir. I'll tell him.
Miss Stanley,
Yes, Vicky?
process that shortly it will be undergoing. Is that right?
Oh, nothing wrong with your shorthand, Vicky. The MD does tend to murder the language at times. You'll get used to it.
Good.
Good morning, Miss Stanley.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Macmillan?
Yes?
Mr. Lewis to see you, sir. I told him you were busy.
I won't take up much of your time, sir.
You a salesman? No, Lewis. Yes, come into my office.
Vicky, get on with your work.
Please. Thank you, sir.
So,
was when my wife's brother killed himself. You were the policeman who came to see us.
That's right, sir.
3 years ago. And you are again here now?
Well, I know it must seem odd, sir, but certain aspects of the case are still unclear.
He ran over his girl by mistake and then he killed himself. What is unclear?
Well, I remember you were most helpful the last time I saw you, sir.
So, I'm always helpful to the authorities of this country. If it were not for them, I also would be dead.
Sorry.
Did I not tell you this? Oh. They allowed me to stay in this country after my family escaped from Austria. They allowed me to fight in the war, on your side.
I see. I did wonder about your name.
Oh, it is not a secret. When I joined the army, the British army, it was at Maryhill Barracks in Glasgow. I was along with 100 Jewish refugees. As a precaution, in case we were captured and shot, we had to change our names.
And you chose Macmillan.
The Sergeant Major handed out local telephone directories for us to consult. You have seen a Glasgow telephone directory, Mr. Lewis? A lot of M's. I think 3/4 of the book. But I am busy this morning all the time. What is it you want?
Well, first of all, sir, has anybody else contacted you recently?
Yes, Mr. Lewis, one of your men. Kate Cake, something like this.
Detective Sergeant Kates.
Yes, that is the man.
Well, would you mind telling me what he wanted?
Can't he tell you? I'm sorry, that is rude. No, he came to see my wife, the sister of Trevor Bromley, as you know. But she is only to the office 2 days in the week, so I saw him. He seemed to have some idea that there is something fishy in the fact that Trevor borrowed my wife's car on the day of the accident. I told him there is nothing fishy in this, that he often borrowed the car. I also told him that we had been enough disturbed by the happenings of 3 years ago. That my wife had to spend 6 months in a nursing home because of it.
Well, he seems to have upset you, sir.
No, he was a polite man. No, but this is something that is bad for my wife to be thinking about now that she is well again.
Yes, I see. Yeah, I seem to remember when I questioned you before that you were pretty shaken up by Trevor's death as well.
My brother-in-law was not a brilliant man, Mr. Lewis. But he was a good man. I have a great liking for him. It was a tragedy.
Was he good at his job?
Oh, he was very good. I took him on because Marianne asked me to. Yes. It was before we were married, and she was chauffeur to me.
Chauffeur?
Yes, she was in the ATS. No, what is the modern title? What do you call it? RACS. Women's Royal. That is it, yes. Now she has a bigger job. She handles my public relations and advertising. They both have ability, you see. Now, Trevor, he's a good worker. He's a good brain, you know, but nervous.
Yes.
The other man, Kates, he asked me a lot of questions. You ask little. You seem unsure.
Well, perhaps, sir. Maybe I don't know the right questions to ask.
Look, I'm not saying I don't like it. I think it's a knockout. It's just that, well, you know, you get used to categorizing people. I've obviously just been putting you in the wrong pigeonhole.
What pigeonhole? Oh, good God.
That'll be 3 cups, I suppose.
Well. I don't believe it.
You don't need a dinner jacket for the Cocotte Club. Coffee, sir?
Drink, sir?
I'll have a large Scotch, please. Phil?
Have you got any of that muscadet I had last time, was it?
Muscadet frappé. Of course, sir. Nice to see you again, sir.
Thank you.
Well, you seem to know your way about here.
That's the trouble with you Londoners, you don't know your own town. That's the governor there, talking to the bird in the blue frock.
Well, perhaps you can introduce me to him.
Ah, well, I don't really know him to talk to.
Thanks a bunch.
Your drink, sir.
Thank you.
On your own tonight, sir?
So far?
Joan and Gabrielle at free at present.
Oh, well, I've got to chat a bit of business with my colleague, eh? I'll give you a yell.
Of course, sir.
Cheers.
Oh, cheers. Very cooperative people.
Yeah, it's not a bad place. Shall I get Joan and Gabrielle over now?
No, we don't want them that cooperative. Dennis Kates was here last Wednesday.
The day before he died?
And the day he died. He didn't leave until they were closing, 3:30 a.m.
Is this where he got the photos?
Well, it could be. They've got a rule of the house. The hostesses aren't allowed to go off with the customers.
A bit like the no-foul rule in soccer.
Yeah, exactly. So they met somebody outside.
Do we know who?
Well, it's got to be one of the girls. The governor doesn't want me embarrassing them with questions. But it seems that one of the hostesses hasn't been in since last Thursday, a girl called Tammy Peters.
Oh, yeah?
And she lives in Leatherhead, in Surrey.
Leatherhead? Dennis copped it on Hogs Hill?
4 miles out of Guildford. That's right on her doorstep.
Morning, Sue.
Good morning. You seem bright enough.
Of course I am. Why not?
Abandoned nights out in London's square mile of ice.
2 glasses of wine-flavoured ice cubes give over.
Hey, is Nick in the same condition?
Even more so. I think the water the scotch as well.
What are you doing?
Well, I've had a thought about Matey.
Matey?
Trevor Bromley, you know. I'm wondering why that firm failed him on his medical. According to Nick, his brother-in-law said he was, like, nervous. Now, a lot of people say that, when what they really mean is he's off his head.
You mean mental problems?
Could account for a lot, couldn't it?
Have you mentioned it to Nick?
Well, I only thought of it this morning. Still, it's worth digging into, isn't it?
Now where are you going?
Out.
Another thought?
Not mine. Nick wants us to check the file to see just how many people Dennis called on. Can't do this bloke on the phone.
Why not?
He's a travelling man, isn't he?
Sue Maxwell.
Who is it?
I'm a police officer, Miss Peters.
What do you want?
I only want to ask you a few questions. It's about Dennis Kates. Sergeant Kates, you met him last week.
Put your warrant card through the letterbox.
Thank you. You always so careful?
Yes, I am.
Well, that's good. Is there something you want to tell me, Miss Peters?
I thought perhaps you were going to tell me. Come in. Sit down. So it wasn't an accident then?
What?
The man who was killed last Thursday in the quarry. It wasn't an accident, was it?
Well, why should you think that?
Well, isn't that why you're here? When I heard about it, I realized why he'd been asking me about Sylvia, and I knew it wasn't an accident. Whoever killed her killed him. I knew it.
Now, come on, Miss Peters. We know all about Sylvia Chase's death. You must know as well.
Look, Mr. Lewis, where I work, you hear a lot of things from men who are drunk and amorous, things you don't want to hear. I think Sylvie heard something that she shouldn't, and she got killed for it. I think they'll probably kill me if they can.
Now, come and sit down. It's Tammy, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, look, Tammy, we don't know what happened to cause Dennis Kates' death. But we do know what caused Sylvia Chasen's and who did it. So if you've got any ideas that one of the firms has got it in for you, you can forget it. They don't operate that way.
You can't be that sure.
Well, I am that sure. Now, the sort of villains you're thinking about, the ones who talk telephone numbers and splash champagne round nightclubs and flash chivs under bookies' noses, they are mugs. And they can't keep their mouths shut. Now, if one of the firms had had anything to do with Sylvia's death, we'd have known it within 24 hours.
Well, that's what I thought, but not after last week.
Because you've had a shock and you're not thinking straight. Now, go and make some more coffee.
No, I won't, but I'm going to go and get dressed. You won't go away?
No, of course not. Can I use your phone?
Yes.
Sue Maxwell. Oh, hi. No, he's out. Oh, I don't really know. Said something about a travelling man.
Hang on.
Oh, good morning.
Morning.
I'm looking for a Mr. Bandish.
You found him. That's me.
Oh, hello, Mr. Bandish. The office said you'd be down here somewhere. I wonder if you could spare a minute. Attached to the police, Department G13.
Lads, all right. Right, what can I do for you?
I believe my boss had a word with you last week.
Tall fella, Emma Kates.
Yes, that's him.
Yeah, what does he want to know now?
Well, you see, he's on another job at present, and I thought perhaps you could fill me in as to what you talked about. It was a chasing accident, wasn't it, about 3 years back?
Yeah. Had my gang a couple of 100 yards away down on the B road. Never saw the accident, but, of course, I had to give evidence about the lights.
The lights?
Them.
Oh, why?
Well, the bloke who'd been looking after them had gone down the road and they got stuck.
Oh, I see.
Mind you, it wasn't that sort. It was the old two-light lantern. Happened quite a bit with them. They got a fair on knocking about, you know. That particular time, it had stuck permanently on the red. It was like that over an hour.
Bit boring if you're waiting, like.
And dangerous.
Dangerous?
More people than you'd think are colourblind. They're all right on the three-colour system. They know the light positions. But the old double lantern, I've seen some smash-ups.
Yeah, I'll bet. And what was it that Sergeant Kates asked you about?
Well, mainly, I suppose, to confirm what I said at the inquest.
Just that?
That's right.
Sylvie never talked about him. That's how I knew it was serious.
What, never?
No. I tried, but it was as if she was ashamed somehow.
But she was going to marry him.
So she said. She told me so a couple of times on the phone. I'd been away in the States that year, and I didn't get back till a week before she was killed. I'd been away 6 months.
Are you working over there?
No, not working. There was a guy, and I thought he felt the same about me as I did about him. I couldn't have been more wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Life's rich pattern, isn't it? Anyway, it was while I was in LA that Sylvie got it bad as well.
You know she was pregnant.
Yes,
And did she want the baby?
very much so. It was when they read that letter out at the inquest, and I realized the man she was going to marry was the man that ran her over. I couldn't believe it was an accident.
Or do you now?
Do you?
Well, I don't know, Tammy. I don't think Dennis Kates did.
No, he didn't.
Have he told you so?
Well, not in so many words, but why else would he ask me so much about Sylvie? Who her friends were, the men she knew, if she ever went away at weekends, and who with. I had to practically throw him out at 7 o'clock in the morning, which wasn't very kind of me because he'd saved me the cab fare home.
He left at 7 o'clock.
Well, I normally go to bed at 5. I was bushed by 7, but he understood.
Look, he went off the road at 9:20 that morning. Now, it didn't take him 2 hours to drive 6 miles. Did he say where he was going?
No. I gave him some photos of Sylvie and off he went.
And the road he went off wasn't even on the way back to town.
Well, he'd been up all night. If he was very tired, it could explain him taking the wrong road and the accident.
Yes, of course it could. Well, how about that coffee now?
Kurt.
Thank you, Vicky. What is it, my dear?
Kurt, Miss Stanley tells me that you've had the police calling on you again.
A routine inquiry, nothing to worry about.
But she got the name right, did she? Lewis. The same man who came to see us when... Trevor, you know.
Marion, darling, it is nothing. These people are always worrying the bone that is policemen here everywhere.
But I thought it was all over.
It will be, it will be, it will be.
Kurt, I don't think I could go through it all again.
It's just that they have to close the file.
The man who came to the house last week, Kates was his name. Is that what you wanted?
I don't remember anybody called Kates coming to see me.
So, one applies pressure.
Where?
Well, everywhere. It's the only thing I can do, because unlike Dennis Kates, I've got no starting off place. Unless Phil has come up with something.
No, he hasn't. Seems that Dennis Kates spent the last few days of his life checking that all the statements in the file were correct.
He knew something didn't tally, but what?
Hi. Any luck?
Not so far. Well, it's a pity you're in your soccer hooligan gear. I'm going clubbing tonight.
Well, it won't take me long to nip on and get changed.
Oh, don't bother. Now they know me down at the Cocotte, they may let me in unattended.
Don't worry. I'll lock up.
Mr. McGladys.
Good evening, sir. And what can we do for you this time, Mr. Lewis?
I saw Miss Peters.
Did you? Well, perhaps now she will start answering her phone.
Yes, possibly. I'd like you to do something for me.
As I told you, we're always ready to help the police.
Good. Because if you don't, they might start inquiring a bit too closely into that personalized minicab service of yours. But don't worry, Steve, your secret's safe with me, so far.
So, let's have it.
He had a girl working here about 3 years ago, named Chasen, Sylvia Chasen.
She died. A car crash.
Road accident.
So?
Who was her dear friend, Steve?
She was a hostess here.
Now it's my turn. So?
So, when she was here, she was working.
Right.
Don't I remember reading it in the paper somewhere that he killed himself? The regular stuff.
Well, you leave him out for a minute. Who else was Sylvia thick with?
Well, man, this is 3 years back.
Look, I know when it was. Club records.
What?
Every time a hostess has a drink, it gets marked on a client's bill, so you can calculate her money.
3 years ago. You think my accountants keep waste paper from that far back?
Well, maybe they don't, but you do. There are names and money in this business. So you get that list of names for me by tomorrow.
Hello? This is Stephen Michaelides here. The Cocotte Club. The trouble is, I've had another policeman in here asking questions. This one is called Lewis. I gather that you know the name. Now, before I start giving him some unfortunate answers to his questions, I should like to see you. When we close will be best. I'll be waiting for you.
Morning.
Morning. Look, Phil, it's just a different area of approach. That's all.
Nick could tell you all you want to know about him.
Oh, I bet he couldn't.
Bet he could.
Tell you about who?
Dennis Kates. Sue wants to know everything about him, and she wants me to bend the computer to get his CV through.
Oh, for you, I'd have thought that was a minor infringement of Home Office standing instructions. What do you want to know about Dennis?
I want to know what he knew and you don't. Different areas of ignorance.
So what's wrong with that?
Well, we're supposed to be thoroughly checking out this file, and there's one area of ignorance that's still bugging me.
Like what?
Like why Trevor Bromley failed a medical when he was a 16-year-old.
Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you that at lunchtime. I'm going to see his sister, whether her husband likes it or not. And what sister doesn't know all about her kid brother's ailments?
I never had a kid brother.
But if you did, you would. How about some coffee?
Another 10 minutes.
Make it 5.
Make it 3.
Let's have it now.
Bright chap, Dennis. Do you know he's got 3 A-levels? Maths, physics and chemistry. Oh, he was in the RAF. Sergeant Instructor, radar. Came out 1964.
Did you say radar?
I said radar.
Electronic engineering?
Well, what about it?
That's what radar is.
And?
And Trevor Bromley?
Failed his medical for electronic engineering.
So what does it mean?
Well, can't you tell me?
No, not yet.
Oh, well, you better hurry up before Nick comes back with the answer.
Well, you don't know, but I'm sure Mrs. McMillan would. Yes, perhaps.
Marion, my dear, would you be kind enough to come in here a moment, please? What Why is it so important to you?
Well, if I could answer that, sir, I wouldn't be bothering you.
My wife is also like her brother. She's nervous, you know. I'd like you to be correct with her. Polite, you know.
Don't worry about that, sir.
Oh, my dear, this is Mr. Lewis. You will remember he came to see us when poor Trevor was dead.
Yes. Yes, I remember.
Good morning.
Sit down, my dear.
I wonder if you could help me, Mrs. Macmillan. We're trying to tie up a few loose ends in some of our files. I'm afraid your brother is one of them.
Loose ends, but he's dead.
Yes. Now, we've got him applying for a job in 1963 with Crossley Park in Electronics. He was turned down because of medical reasons. Have you any idea what they were?
In 1963? Oh, I was in Malaya in 1963.
Malaya?
In the racks. But he was perfectly fit as a boy. Why on earth should they refuse him the job?
He never told you?
No, never.
Okay, be available.
Yes, sir. I reckon poison.
Well, that's a woman's weapon.
Don't believe everything you read in detective novels. It's a bloke. I gotta go and pick him up.
Well, I know who did it?
I shouldn't think so. This fella's a D.C.I, named Lewis. The dead man had his name and telephone number on a card in his pocket. So we bring him over here.
What div?
No division. He's a desk bod.
Careers intelligence? Ah, I wonder if you could help me. Well, my oldest son will be leaving school this year. He's 16.
16?
Yes. Yes, well, we think he's going to get his 6 O-levels, and he's decided to go in for electronic engineering.
All brain surgery, but his hand trembles, something shocking.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yes, well, there's just one thing I would like to ask. I believe there's quite a stringent medical exam before they'll accept you. Yes. Yes. Yes, I've got that. Thank you.
Well?
Must be all those little wires.
You what?
All the different colours. The only medical disability that will prevent them getting in is colour blindness.
And dangerous. More people than you'd think are colourblind. They're all right on the 3-colour system. They know the light positions. But the old double lantern. I've seen some smash-ups.
Bromley wouldn't know. He wouldn't know. That's what Dennis saw. I must ring Nick.
What did Dennis see?
Miss Maxwell, your door bloke tells me Inspector Lewis is out. Where is he?
Just a minute. Who are you?
I'm a police officer.
Well, let's see something to prove it. Right, Sergeant Brown. And what do you want to see Inspector Lewis about?
It's official business.
What official business?
Who do you think you are, miss?
I think I'm in charge of this office. And I think if I don't know what your official business is in one moment, I'm going to phone my boss, and you can speak to him. And his name is Bartlett, Commander Bartlett.
We've been asked to take the inspector along to see our governor.
Who is?
Mr. Starkey.
Rank?
He's a detective inspector.
Oh, so DCIs have to come running to detective inspectors now, do they?
We're investigating a murder, miss.
What murder?
We've got official orders to take Mr. Lewis along to the Cocotte Club in Wardour Street.
The Cocotte Club?
Sue Maxwell? Ah, Mr. Nicholas. I was hoping that you'd get in touch with me. Yes. Yes, well, as it's extremely important, I think the best thing is for me to come over and look at the stuff straight away. Yes. Well, I can be there in half an hour. Yes, let's meet outside the factory, shall we? That's Macmillan's, yes? Right, see you there. I've got to go out, Phil. See that stuff over at Macmillan's factory?
What about the inspector?
Well, go in my car, eh? You're bound to need a hand. Old Lou's not too clever with the figures nowadays.
That'd be a great help. Thank you.
Now, look, miss.
Harry?
Yes, miss?
Could you come up to the office, please? A couple of gentlemen up here waiting to see Mr. Lewis. You can keep them company.
Right, miss.
We'll be perfectly all right on our own.
Not in my office, you won't.
Miss Stanley?
Oh, it's all right, Miss Stanley. I'm not going to bother you again. I've got to meet somebody here, and it's warmer in and out. They'll be here any minute.
Yes, do take a seat.
Thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Macmillan?
Helen, I've decided not to stay this afternoon. I'm very tired. I'd like you to lay on a cab for me, please.
Yes. Where to?
Well, home, of course. in about half an hour.
Yes, of course. Vicky, get onto the minicab, people. A cab for Mrs. Macmillan. She has to go to Godalming.
Where, miss?
Godalming in Surrey, just beyond Guildford.
Thank you very much.
You got the message?
So what was all that rigmarole?
Give him the bad news first.
Well, there are two blokes from CID in the office waiting for you.
Who are they?
Bloke named Brown and his mate. They want to question you about a murder at the Cocotte Club. It's no joke, boss. Steve Michaelides.
Michaelides? I thought he knew more than he was giving out.
But the good news is really good.
Well, go on.
Trevor Bromley wasn't driving the car that killed Sylvie.
Well, I know that.
Did you also know that he was colourblind?
No, I didn't. But I think I know who pulled the job. Or jobs. Right, get onto the office and get that fella Brown over here, quick.
Just like that?
Now!
Mr. Lewis, Mr. Macmillan's busy.
What is this? You here again?
Mr. Lewis.
It's all right.
Why is this persecution?
Well, it's a long story. It started with a nightclub hostess who fell in love with one of the customers. He was older, he'd had a hard life, but maybe that's what attracted her. And he was married. Now, I don't know what he felt about it, but he got her pregnant. And maybe that's what put him off.
No, stop.
No, that's all right. I think your wife's entitled to be here. Sit down, Mrs. Macmillan. I was telling your husband a story, a true story. You came in at just the right time.
No, stop. There is no reason why my wife should be involved. I will make a confession.
Will you? To more than one murder?
Kurt.
Yes, to everything.
All right. Start with Sylvia Chasen.
Kurt, don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Marion.
Well?
Please. That day, I went to see her. I drove to where she lived.
It's a nice story, Mr. Macmillan. But 3 years ago, when I interviewed you in Chelsea, you couldn't drive a car. According to Miss Stanley, you still can't.
I tell you, I drove the car.
I think someone with enough technical know-how to fix that brake system must have been a pro, a garage mechanic or a chauffeur. What do you think, Mrs. Macmillan?
I don't know anything about this.
No?
I tell you, it is I who am responsible.
Mr. Macmillan, I read Trevor Bromley's supposed suicide note. It's good idiomatic English, not the sort you write. And please don't try and tell me you had Miss Stanley take it down from your dictation. Have you nothing to say, Mrs. Macmillan?
About what?
Well, perhaps you've forgotten. You see, I think what happened to Sylvia Chasen was quite different.
Mary.
Mr. Macmillan, don't you think she's killed enough people?
I won't stay here and listen to such rubbish. Who are these men?
If your name's Brown, the lady there happens to have committed 4 murders.
What?
That's right, sir. Your wife was busy again this morning at the Cocotte Club.
Cocotte?
Where you used to meet Sylvia, where it all started, wasn't it? All right. Sylvia Chasen never even met Trevor Bromley, did she?
No. You see, it was the baby. Sylvia was going to have the baby. And Marion and I, we could never have a child.
There's always a reason, isn't there?
Thanks for waiting.
Oh, you weren't that long. 3.5 hours.
Nick, the person they brought out was a woman.
That's right. I'll see you back at the office.
Hey, I got a better idea. You know they're open.
Now, do you buy?
Don't I always?